Ladies and gentlemen, we are 2 days into Senator Chuck Schumer's shutdown of the federal government, and I'll tell you what, we just got a hold of some very interesting information as to why this shutdown is really taking place. Now, as you all know, with the federal government shut down, President Trump has been able to hack and slash waste and fraud out of the federal government left and right, and personally, I don't have any complaints with that whatsoever. Really, as far as this entire shutdown goes, President Trump was in a win-win situation. Either the government remains open and the America First agenda continues on full steam ahead, or it shuts down like it has, and President Trump gets to start cutting out all of the waste and fraud. But so, of course, this raises a very curious question. Why would Chuck Schumer deliberately shut down the federal government if it means that President Trump gets to start reducing the size of the federal government and draining the swamp, which we all know that Chuck Schumer doesn't want? And so, folks, that is what brings us to the main topic of today's video. You see, Chuck Schumer's next senatorial election is in November of 2028, and I'll tell you what, already, things are not looking good for him, to say the least. As you might have noticed, over the last couple of years, the Democrat Party has slowly shifted further and further to the radical left, and now, between being 74 years old and being viewed as not being progressive enough amongst his Democrat base, there's a very good chance that Chuck Schumer will actually be getting kicked out of the Senate come the next election. But now you might be asking, kicked out of the Senate by who? Well, the answer to that question is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Take a look.
What's holding this up right now, Adil?
Schumer's holding it up. I mean, when we say Schumer shutdown, it's 100% Schumer shutdown because his fear of AOC beating him in his primary election is absolutely making him run in fear. And I mean this because in 1996, by the way, I was a senior in high school. That was 29 years ago. Yeah, he was on the House floor. He was a congressman then, and he was railing against giving illegals subsidies or benefits because it encourages them to come here. Now, today, what the fight is over is they're wanting to strip all the one big beautiful bill language out that cut the waste, fraud, and abuse, which is one of them cutting the millions of illegals from getting those subsidies. They want to reinstate that.
And so, folks, there you have it. As many of you know, Chuck Schumer is a senator from New York. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a House representative from New York. And right now, Chuck Schumer is absolutely losing his mind at the prospect of being replaced by AOC. And so what is he currently doing? Well, he's shut down the federal government in an effort to look more progressive to his base. Take a look.
Let's just step back for a minute and look how we got here. Chuck Schumer did the right thing in the spring and led the Senate to a clean CR. What we've got here is the House they passed a clean CR. The Republicans have the votes in the Senate, and he will not allow his members to come across. And what's changed since then is it's his poll numbers. So the president, Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Leader Thune, they're not negotiating with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. They're negotiating with Representative Ocasio-Cortez because she's nipping at his heels, and the American people are being held hostage by Chuck Schumer's poll numbers. And we're starting to see some of the very few moderate members left in the Democratic Party in the Senate drift toward wanting a solution. Chuck Schumer's blocking it. When I look at Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, straight out of Brooklyn, makes me glad that I left New York in 2020. And your question about the shutdown, this is a choice that Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have made. And if they want to shut the government down, then there are ramifications.
And so, folks, what do you say we talk about what those ramifications really look like? You see, President Trump is done playing softball with all of these political terrorists like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries who are willing to shut down the federal government in order to try to extort over $1 trillion out of all of us, hardworking Americans, for their beloved illegal aliens. And so that is why the Trump administration has just frozen $18 billion worth of federal aid to New York State, the home state of both Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, because almost all of it was wrapped up in a bunch of unconstitutional DEI bullcrap. But you know what? Things actually get even worse for Chuck Schumer. But before we take a look at that, I do want to say real quick that if you folks enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. But okay, check this out.
This all comes down to Schumer, and the only reasons he's doing this is because he can't lead his own base. Remember when we came to this so many months ago, he said he was going to fight it, then he folded, and he had a new book come out, and he couldn't even go on a book tour because he's afraid of AOC. And remember, AOC is a member of Congress, but she raises more money than any other member of Congress. She's from New York. He's afraid she'll run against him. And so all he's doing is holding the entire country hostage because he cannot stand up and do the right thing.
And so, folks, that is exactly what's going on. But now, I'm sure many of you are wondering if AOC herself has chimed in on all of this, and actually she has. In fact, she did so in a very curious way. Take a look.
And I saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly.
Folks, she's not even denying the allegations that she's behind all of this. Keep in mind, AOC isn't even in the Senate. She has absolutely zero direct say as to whether or not the government remains shut down or reopens, but still, she's just acknowledging the fact that, yeah, she's really the one calling the shots behind the scenes. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let the record show AOC has shut down the government in an effort to extort $1.5 trillion out of all of us hardworking American tax-paying citizens to cover the healthcare costs of a bunch of illegal aliens. This is the current state of the modern Democrat Party. Not only absolutely anti-American, but also absolutely pathetic. But you know what? As if everything that we've gone over today wasn't enough, take a look at what Vice President J.D. Vance just had to say about all of this.
To the American people who are watching, the reason your government is shut down at this very minute is because, despite the fact that the overwhelming majority of congressional Republicans and even a few moderate Democrats supported opening the government, the Chuck Schumer AOC wing of the Democratic Party shut down the government because they said to us, we will open the government, but only if you give billions of dollars of funding for health care for illegal aliens. That's a ridiculous proposition.
And so, yeah, in my opinion, ridiculous is a little bit of an understatement. Personally, I like to use the word political terrorism. But so, folks, as we can all see, President Trump and the congressional Republicans have absolutely refused to give in to the anti-American demands of the far left. And you know what? Thank God, because that is what it looks like to put America first.